Welcome to the project, everyone. Today is a fun project. It's been a long time coming, but we're finally here. We're ready to do it. Albeit, I wish it wasn't so cold. As you saw, it's getting cold again, and yeah, I had to fire up the wood furnace again. So you'll hear that in the background, but here she is. She's a beaut. So I've been wanting to do some projects on the channel with this, but with everything going on, we just really haven't got around to it. In the end, I would love to actually repaint this. As you can tell, the clear coat on this, really bad. And it's funny because I've seen other trucks, this is an 05, I've seen other trucks on the road that also have like the same exact problem. I guess Toyota just today or that day, that whatever on the line, they just did not mix it that well. So yeah, the clear coat kind of makes it look like crap, but honestly, this is a good truck. Since we've had the truck, I have replaced the carrier bearing or whatever it's called, because this has a two-piece axle for the rear. So it goes here to a carrier bearing and then down to the axle. And I've replaced that and like some U-joints and whatnot. But other than that, it's been pretty decent. I really haven't used it to its full potential. It does have an E-locker, which is awesome. 6-speed manual. I love that. I didn't even know they made this truck in a manual, but I'm so happy that it is a manual. But that being said, one of the things that I love about it being a manual is that I can kind of tell what's going on way before it really needs to be dealt with, if that makes sense. Like I have a lot more control over the car and everything going on. And I've noticed that the clutch has been going out for a while. Now granted, the Crosstrek, our main, daily driver, when that went down, basically the entire time I was just hoping that the clutch in this thing could last until we could get the Crosstrek back on the road. And then the Crosstrek took so much longer. So we did fit like a car seat in this thing. We made it work, but now we're finally past that. Crosstrek, done. But now, this truck, it needs a clutch. I'm pretty dang confident. I've felt the clutch slip. Granted, with Toyota's little foot pedal thingy, I don't think that's really the issue. I'm pretty sure it is the clutch. So we're gonna pull the transmission, verify it's the clutch, order parts, and get a new clutch in because we're gonna need this to start hauling some loads and doing some things like that. So really wanna get this back up to snuff. We're going to change the oil and stuff while we're at it. But we brought it in the garage. Finally, time to start this. And one of the other projects was a little radio, because I have a little VHF, UHF radio in there, and it's worked. But I want to do like a full install. But I don't know if that's really where this truck is going to go, because we need something that has a full second seat for car seats and other stuff, which is really sad, because I love the locker on this. And you know me, I could talk about cars and other stuff for way longer than anyone would want to listen to me talk. So let's get to the project. It's gonna be fun. Truck warming up. We're gonna have water dripping out and whatnot, which kind of sucks, but let's get into this. And man, is she dusty. We got a Super Start premium battery in there. Honestly, I don't know what group that is. Group 34. That's a big battery, and I like that. Honestly, I like that there's not much to it. I have put in an amplifier and stuff, so there's a little bit of wiring there, but yeah, this thing needs a bath. As with every other car that I've had, this one was rebuilt. It was totaled and rebuilt, so this headlight over here has some little fixes on it and whatnot. And yeah, all right, well, let's get underneath. Well, actually, before we get underneath, I do want to see if I can use these quick jacks, because when I got the quick jacks, I want to make sure that it could at least lift up the truck. We know for the 4Runner, it doesn't really quite do it, and this is kind of right on that edge as well. Not sure the suspension will I don't think we'll get the suspension off, but we could at least use them to lift up the body to give us more space underneath to work on it. So yeah, quick jacks coming back out. With big projects coming down the line, and there's not a lot of space in here. Let's take a look underneath here, eh? There's my rear axle. Yes, pinion seals definitely kind of needs to get replaced. Here's that carrier bearing that I was talking about. You can see I did modify this so that way there's like a little bit of a drop, because I went to a different carrier bearing, because there's wobble at like 55 miles an hour, but I don't know if I quite like that. I mean, I have gotten some wobble back, and I'm guessing that that's that. So, here's the back of the transmission. I'm guessing that's four-wheel drive actuator. And then we've got our speedometer, speed sensor right there. We've got our exhaust kind of crossing over. We got this cross member that we're gonna have to take out. We are gonna have to take out the exhaust. I did notice right here on the exhaust, let me get that. There has been a rattle, and I found it. It's that exhaust flange. So I found this exhaust flange has broken apart. We kind of need to replace that. I don't feel like rattles. But I think it's just for the heat shielding. Yeah, pull this guy off. He's a little thin. So here's the first steps. Probably need to pull off this crossover pipe, which goes into this Y pipe. But, oh man, if I can even get you guys up in here. Look at this exhaust flange. Look at those bolts. Isn't that crazy? Like, where does the bolt begin and the flange end? And look at the nut. The nut is so... Here. Look at that nut. That nut is so degraded. It's crazy. So that's gonna be a fun flange to take off. I don't know how I'm gonna go about it. Overall, this transmission is gonna be a ton of fun. It's pretty big. We do have some rust, but you know, I think we can make it better than we found it. Excited to get the drive shafts out of here and clean up some space. Probably gonna have to cut off bolts for the exhaust and then replace them, but you know. I do find it interesting, this guy right here, look, heat shielding, this guy, no heat shielding, so. All right, I'm gonna try to get a tripod, set you guys up. There's not a ton of space in here, but let's get to it. Alright, so here's the bolts that I got off. Sorry I knocked you guys over, but look at this. Like, look at how rotten that is. I mean, granted, we still have threads on the inside, but I really wasn't sure if I was able to get them off. On this other one, it was really tough to kind of like get to a point that I could grind it. But like, look, the threads just end when they get exposed at all. So I was really surprised that that came off. I just pounded this socket onto that nut and I got it off. And this other one, we did successfully cut it off. But I mean, look at how pitted. It's like a friggin' bowl down in there. Anyways, got those off. I mean, I think that should be the hardest bolts to get off. So let's get to the next bolts. Alright, so looking at the clutch here, I wanted to see where the clutch master cylinder was, and probably reservoir, but what it looks like is we have the brake master cylinder on the bottom, reservoir on the top, and then this just goes off to the clutch here, because, you know, left foot is the clutch. So, this is our clutch line, and I could just crack it on the bottom and let it all drain out, but what I think I'm going to do is pull most of it out here, so then we just have to wait for the line to drain. And if I drain it down to here, and then we do all the clutch stuff and fill it back up, I shouldn't have to re-bleed my brakes, because the entrance to the brake master cylinder is below the entrance to the clutch. So that's good. As you can see from the side, there's a whole separate container, you know, in this. So there's the clutch master cylinder, or there's the clutch fluid. And there's the brake fluid, and they just do this so that way if you have a brake line fail, you know, your clutch isn't going to also fail at the same time. But if you fill it up to the right height, then, you know, they should equal out. Or vice versa, you know, if your clutch fails, then at least your brakes won't fail. So I got to figure out how to get the fluid out of there too. Or I could just let it drain. Alright, well, maybe that didn't help a ton, but yeah, I don't feel like getting a tube or something and trying to get over to the other side. I mean, we could maybe try and set up something underneath this and then just pull it off from here. But, nah. Yeah, I think I'll just drain it from the bottom. Alright, let's go underneath. So hopefully you guys can see, but essentially we have slave cylinder here, a valve that I have no idea what it does. I don't know. Maybe that's what gives weird pedal feel when it's cold. Basically all I'm gonna do is rubber that's cracked and fallen off. So I'm gonna come in here with the tube and then have that go down into my bottle and call from there. I think usually they're a 10, but this might be a, oh, it is a 10. Okay. Yep. So all you're gonna do is crack it open like that, and then it should eventually start coming down, and it can just drain into our bottle. So I just need to get this tube to actually stay. I don't know. Could I might be able to just sit down here for a while and let it go. Unless that's like a one-way valve. I don't think being cold is really helping this much. Alright, so it's done draining. I'm not saying we're not gonna still make a mess, but we can try to close this up. So I'm tempted to pull off the line there and then just being really careful not to smash up these lines and leave the rest of this on the transmission. To get the hydraulic line off, which is hard lined up into the motor, I'm guessing they just want you to pull the whole motor to do anything like this, but that's a pain. Like, geez. So, yeah, I've disconnected it here, but the one connection on top of the transmission, I can't get to because it's too close to the bell housing. Not the bell housing, the transmission tunnel. And so I'm gonna see if maybe I can pull this brace off. Even though the jack kind of really gets in the way with that. But if I can pull this brace off and then tilt the whole transmission down, that might give me enough space to then somehow wiggle in here and get that mount off. And then with that, I should be able to kind of get like the starter off and other crap. You know, really start getting this out of here. So I'm pulling off the bolts for the transmission mount, but then there's this whole brace across, and oh man, it's a fun one. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So I got the line off, but we kind of need to undo this. So if you didn't know, a lot of times there's like this top cover, but then there actually is like a rubber seal and some insulation and stuff to help like for heat and for vibration and stuff underneath this. So you basically need to get this center console out, which I think it's gonna be kind of undoing this part. I think this pulls out. Yeah, see, that just pulls out. I think a couple 10 mils, and then it's getting like this section out so we can get underneath here. But it looks like just some screwdriver heads right there, and then probably a 10 mil inside there. But we might be able to do it without taking that off. Let me take off these screws. So yeah, down in here, there's like a carpet piece that we need to pull up, and there's no tab. So I don't know if it's just underneath, but let's see if this works. Like that. All right, that works. And now we can pull those 10 mil. Here's e-brake adjustment stuff. It looks like the amplifier, the audio amplifier or power inverter is right here, which is interesting. But yeah, it's just like 2 bolts, and then the front are pins. So on the front, it's actually, I don't even know what to call these. I should have replacement pins for these, but like, I don't know how you're supposed to get those up. I guess maybe pick them, but it's so cold, they just broke off. But now we can get that up. And then it looks like just a few bolts to actually pull the shift lever off. I don't know if you can see this, but there is a lot of wobble in this piece. And I thought that was in my transmission, but no. My transmission actually feels pretty tight. This piece wobbles a lot. Like, can you guys see that? Wobble, wobble, and this piece. So I need to figure out how to get this piece off. Looking at this, yeah, we're gonna have to reseal that, but I'm pretty sure we need to take this off to even get the transmission out. There's a bit of slop in this a little bit, but not too bad. This looks like all one shaft, and I can see it's actually like epoxied down into there. Can you guys see that? So this is not meant to come apart, and this is not a replaceable part. I think we're gonna have to buy this all together. I mean, I'll have to look on the parts, like maybe I could pull that out and just replace the shaft and keep this, but more than likely, you know, this is all one unit. And you know, it's a good design, it just didn't last. Rubber in between here, you know, so we don't get a ton of crazy vibrations in your hand, but it just plumb wore out and broke. I mean, that's nice because in doing all of this, again, I was like, maybe I could figure out how to tighten up the transmission because it's the sloppiest transmission I've ever felt, and it's because it's mainly between this joint. So there we go. Got that out. Now you kind of know how that works. It doesn't come apart. Cool. Alright, so basically the only stuff in between us actually pulling this is these bolts here, and then getting the jack where we want it and sliding it all out. It looks like it's all 14 mil, only with a few that are going to be fun to get to. So I guess let's grab the low-hanging fruit first, eh? Alright, so I think I got all the bolts out. There's just not bolts at like the top of the bell housing, I don't think. I mean, we'll find out soon. So I need to come set the transmission jack and strap it down. I still haven't seen where to like really unplug everything. I could try. I'd rather leave like the sensors on the transmission and then pull it like that rather than pulling all the sensors off. So yeah, so I need to move the jack and then start wiggling it a little bit slowly and see if we can't get it out of here. Alright, so there is actually 2 bolts right at the top of either side on the transmission housing, but I am not going to be able to get down there to show you guys. So I'm going to get those out. I kind of found them from shining light down and then looking through the cab, like where we pulled the shifter out. I'm going to try getting from like the other side, from the passenger side. But I know I'm not going to be able to get you guys a shot at all. So we'll bring you back when I got those undone. And maybe have help. We'll see. Okay, so even though I have it, you know, jerry-rigged to kind of ready to start coming down here, we got to get all the electronics off. There's no plug. I'm pretty sure they designed this whole thing to just all come out through the engine. So like you take the engine and transmission out if you want to do anything, because I'm pretty sure there's a disconnect in the wiring harness from the engine, but there's no disconnect from the engine harness to the transmission harness, which means all of these we need to pull off and get the whole wiring harness off so we can actually pull the transmission out. Which means I also need to go loosen that. I'm gonna set you guys up on time lapse. There was like speed, 4-wheel drive actuator, maybe something else down there. We've got the the O2 sensors here and a couple other smaller things. So it shouldn't be too bad, but we just got to get all of the wires off of it. Well, got them out. Now we can see this butte. We might want to replace our main seal. It looks like we have been leaking a bit, at least at some point. The motor is actually pretty well balanced right here. That's super nice, because a lot of motors, they'll like fall super forwards when you pull the transmission off or something, and then when you go to get it all to line back up, it's such a pain. But the fact that I can just sit here and move the motor with my hand, oh, that's nice. That means when we go in and we're putting the transmission in, we can just move the whole motor with our hand, you know, and I will have to have help for that, that's for sure. So let's pull the pressure I can't speak. It's a pressure parate. Yeah, we'll pull the pressure. Oh my goodness, I literally can't say this. I would say that clutch is toast. Usually there's lines in here to tell you when to start doing it, and even here we've started to wear. We'll bring this to the bench and then I'll show you. So here's the clutch, and yeah, as I was talking, usually you have lines in here and that'll tell you how close it is to needing to be replaced. As you can see, it's just smooth all the way around, and then these rivets to hold in the clutch material. If we flip this over, you can tell we've been rubbing on these rivets here. So yeah, this clutch has definitely gone bad. And here's the other thing too. You can see where those rivets have been rubbing into our pressure plate here. You know, and maybe this is where I was feeling it grab sometimes and then not others, is because, you know, sometimes it was rubbing on the rivets, sometimes it was actually grabbing on the clutch material a little bit. So this is pretty good. I need to see if this is even resurfaceable. If not, then we have to buy a whole new clutch. Definitely gone way further than it needs to be. I feel like when we bought it, I remember the guy saying, oh yeah, we just replaced the clutch, but we really haven't driven it that much to go through an entire clutch. So this might be the original clutch, you know, and maybe there's some way I could see. Yeah, so this does say Toyota on it. Toyota right there. I don't see a date code or anything, or at least I can't read it. This might honestly be the original clutch, which, you know, I think we're at like 160,000 miles or so. I would say that's pretty good. Yeah, so now we need to know, I need to do a little bit of research and figure out, I don't know if that's supposed to be that loose, but I didn't really see like a pilot bearing or anything. So we need to get shift lever, transmission hat, whatever that's called. We need to get definitely a new clutch plate. Need to see if we can resurface this pressure plate. See if we need to resurface the flywheel. And then I think we should be good to go. We should be off to the races. So glad to finally have the teardown done. It means we can finally move on to the next steps and get this back up and running. So hopefully today we can get the transmission back in. But I do need to deal with this. There's like a chasm in here that they machined out. And all of this, you know, that's why we're getting a lot of this. I want to fill it up with epoxy. I almost wonder if I should maybe get some like construction adhesive or something like that in a big old tube and then squirt it down in there rather than doing like these. But I don't know if I have any lying around, you know, or like getting some of that clear silicone in those tubes and then just siliconing this entire thing up, you know, and then trying to have this centered somehow. Yeah, shoot, maybe I should do that. All right, well, never mind. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go buy a tube of silicone. Okay, we do still need to clean up this surface before we put the new clutch in. And speaking of, let me get all these epoxies out of the way. Here's the new clutch, and also still dirty. So ASIN? This is like OEM clutch in here, and honestly, it when I was looking at them, which I just got it all from Rock Auto, when I was looking at this guy, I decided to go with the ASM one because like in here they have these like nice bumpers and stuff in the spring, and the one from Exetti, which, you know, we have an Exetti clutch in the Crosstrek. I almost went the Exetti one, but I like these springs in here, like that makes me feel, or these spring retainers and the bump stops, that makes me feel a bit better. And not to mention, they said if I need a pilot bearing that they will include it. So it was a little more expensive than the Exetti, but I'm happy with this. Looks like they make quality parts. So yeah, we want to get this on, but first we got to clean up that gasket surface, and then we can get the transmission in. Alright, no idea if this is going to work, but I got some adhesive caulk, and we'll see if it holds up. I guess just smallest we can. Okay, so the axle here, you've got this carrier bearing, and I did get like an aftermarket one and did a whole different setup, so it's like mounted on the bottom rather than from the top. But the rubber's like kind of gotten a little saggy, a little loose, and I have gotten vibrations back. So what I'm thinking of doing is this plate here that I made. Just put in another spacer to kind of give more pressure against the rubber. And I don't have a welder, so we're just gonna JB weld. We're gonna JB weld them together. I might clean this up a little bit, and then we'll get right to it. Okay, so it has now been a few days, and I do want to apologize. I didn't film a ton while my buddy was over helping me, but we did get like a lot of the most annoying work done that it's hard to see. So like the bolts right at the top, some of those transmission bolts and whatnot, we got all that done. So JB weld on our transmission mount, or our drive shaft mount, looks good. That doesn't look like it's coming off. And then also on the shifter here, if we look at this, yeah, I mean, I think it took up a lot of the slack. I could maybe have put more in there. But I say we just run this and then see how long it lasts. That's also fixed in my book. So now, I want to get the truck out of the garage tonight. Let's see if we can do it. Garage is warming up. Essentially, I just want to double check all the work that we did with like, make sure all the plugs are in, make sure everything's in, and then we can start putting on like basically drive shaft and exhaust. And that's it. I think that's it. That's really it. Also, one last note here. So this drive shaft, the slip joint right here, actually came undone. And when I tried to put it back together, it kind of bound up. And after fiddling with it a bit, we cleaned it and re-greased it. Really, the key to this, if you ever have these fall apart, you want this U-joint, this U, to be clocked the same as that U-joint. You don't want them out of phase. You just want them in the same direction, so this bearing matches up with that bearing. And once I did that, this slid in just fine. I did want to just get straight to axles and drive shafts, but again, this harness, there's no plug. So there's no plug between the engine and the transmission. And I just want to double check, and I'm glad I did, because way up here, there's right there, a mount that we didn't get. And I can't really get it. So I don't like it, but I'm gonna have to, I think I'm gonna have to take this brace and lower the whole transmission down again. Hey, one last thing, and I've already done it, so let's get to it. All right, so here's the hole. Just gonna be using some of the copper stuff. And yeah, nothing too crazy. I'm just gonna kind of squish it on here with my hand. Finger tight 1 hour, and then we can tighten down fully. So we'll let this set, go get some grub, work on underneath, and then we can tighten these up. Dang it, that's still so much play. Well, I don't think my silicone thing worked. Maybe it needs air to dry. That's frustrating. I guess we'll see if it gets better. All right, food. So I decided, after thinking about it, I decided to try just one last shot at getting that actually to be fixed, because obviously my silicone route did not go well. So I'm just gonna take a last stab, and I wanted to get this off before all of this really dried, because then I don't have to scrape it all off. So pulled it off, just kind of cleaning it up a little bit, and then we'll go take another stab at the stupid shift lever. So I'm a bit curious, is it just that it didn't cure? Yeah, see, look, it just didn't cure. And it's just gonna take forever to cure. What I'm curious is if we wanna try, still go this route. Oh yeah, see, all of that's just like super fresh. I almost wonder if I didn't put enough in. It makes sense. How do we cure it? I almost do need like a 2-part epoxy or something. Because it makes sense, like when they store it, it's all sealed, no air can get to it. Therefore, it doesn't cure. But here, you know, it's just gonna seal at the top, and how do we get it all to cure inside? What I'm thinking right now is I do remember some construction adhesive I've had lying around, but I don't know where that is. So I'm gonna try finding it. No idea if this is still good, but this might be it, because you know, it's a 2-part reaction, so it doesn't necessarily need air to cure. I just have to mix it up. So we'll see. This is gonna be a bit of a pain to clean up, but yeah, we'll just go for it, right? See, and that's what I want. I want to have to deal with a lot of crap coming back up. Because I know it's going to be, it's all full, you know? Alright, well, I think I can still use this hardener, but I'm pretty sure that can is just toast. I have quite a few projects that I'd love to use Bondo on in the future, but yeah, probably not this can. Alright, so it's just like ever so slightly tacky. I think it's stiff enough that I could actually install this, and like, look at that, no play. So as this actually cures more and more, it'll get better, but I call that a success. I mean, who knows how old of Bondo, and it still worked. Bondo, honestly, this is not my best Bondo job. I've done a lot better. And you'll probably see that in the future. But this, you know, hey, I got it to work. So I call that success. This is going in the trash. All right, let's get this back on so we can continue. All right, well, we're back to our normal shenanigans. And again, I wouldn't suggest anyone actually fill their shifter with Bondo. I mean, we'll see. It might not even work because the shifter's too heavy, but if that's the case, then I'll come pull it back off and we will, you know, we'll deal with it. But for now, I want to see how it goes. And also for this, normally you would just put like a bead all the way around, and then like if you maybe want to smear it around with your finger, it might not hurt. Applying it all the way around with your finger like this is also not ideal, but you know, we're not a channel of ideals, right? The SD card ran out of space, but we got this in, and it's feeling so much tighter. I'm glad we took that out. But now let's go underneath and finally deal with those. I think it's just exhaust and drive shafts. So let's get to it. So I think it might be exhaust first and then axle, but I could be wrong. In our choosing, we have this kind of exhaust seal, which I don't think we actually need, but I got it in case. And then we got two of these guys, so I think this is what I just took off. And then we have one of the little conical boys, or whatever you want to call them. So all right, well, it's been charging for a few minutes. I don't really think it'll start, but let's see, because if we can get it started, then I can see if the clutch is kind of working. But it's coming up. All right, well, I gotta call it a night. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll see if it works. Oh, I'm ready to be done with this truck. I'm telling you, man. Here's the thing. I looked up 4Runner versus Tacoma. The 4Runner actually can tow more. Like our 4Runner can tow more than this Tacoma, which is interesting. I don't know if it's because this is lighter, but yeah. And I think I told my wife the exact opposite. So sorry, I'm apologizing. But still, this is nice. It has a bed. All right. See you guys next time. All right. Well, it's the next morning. Battery charger did say it was a bad battery, which, you know, if it's unplugged and it dies, like, of course it's a bad battery. I guess we'll see if it works. You guys should be able to see the rear tires. So that's a neutral. And then let out the clutch. Clutch in. Clutch out. Second. Yeah. It works! Yeah, I'm gonna have to change the battery, and I kind of need to fix that ground lead as well for the chassis ground or the body ground. Well, guys, I think that marks this project done. The truck is back up and running. We should be able to use it to tow, to pick up things, you know, go dirt biking, that kind of a thing. And so, really excited to have this done. It's been like a year or two, at least a year and a half, of knowing that this needs to get done. The shifting feels way better right now. So I say that's a success. Maybe do a little bit of an outro project, changing the battery, because that definitely needs to get changed. Old Trusty is out of the garage now. We'll have a lot more space, because, like always, there's other projects. So I'm gonna get the door, and I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys have a great day. If you wanna subscribe, you're welcome to. I'll see you on the next project. And I'd love to have you there, so. Bye. Oh, I used to wear catches.